I'm gonna have to go hunting for food in just a couple of minutes. I'm getting really, really hungry. It's in the box.
Yeah, I was going to say you're in a co-working space, right? So does
I
this mean like
am.
kind of crawling under tables and looking for scraps or
Yeah, looking for unnamed bags in the fridge. Yeah.
so the way I see it, we potentially have two types of issues that we create. One is like I'd love this functionality or feature, or there's this bug. So it's kind of the sowing the seed, the almost pre-planning or whatever you want to call it. Um, you then have ones either where after a while they become this, or you create it from the beginning where, a follow-up or something where you say, oh, it'd be good in the future to add some tests for this or to refactor this, or at which point you've immediately got almost the implementation plan. So one thing to consider is I don't think we're always going to have an implementation plan from the beginning, but I don't think that stops us having a section in every issue that sort of says implementation plan and then TBC or whatever. The only problem that causes is I think we've got some triage ops automation that checks for implementation plans, maybe labels or does something accordingly based on whether there is or isn't one. So we might just have to bear that in mind. But yeah, I think it would be great if almost all of our I suppose so. Looking, for example, at our bug template, there's a possible fixes already. That's not exactly implementation plan, but our default template is very minimal.
Maybe, do you think that this is something we could want to do in the default template?
I'm just having a quick read of what it says now at the moment.
Oh no, I'm noticing that. How do I get? Oh, here's the default.
Um, yeah, I mean it's quite good because it sort of says if you shouldn't use it to raise support requests. It's kind of saying, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's linking you to the guide.
yeah,
Um, if you have an issue, maybe we can add some. So maybe we have a more detailed issue template for like GitLab engineers. And I mean, like when I say that, I mean like for us and even our contributors that are creating issues that have a plan or something that's not just a support ticket, but like um maybe we need to link to that here, or like maybe in getting help or something, and link to which description we should use. Uh Empty state.
or again, I know. So I definitely wanted to emphasize that we don't need to tailor it to the person consuming it. But I
Right.
know we were sort of saying, okay, but maybe we do to the person creating it. But I again don't think we should really discriminate between community members and team members, but maybe we could discriminate between sort of newer users and more advanced users. But I think
Yeah.
we could do that maybe even in a single template where you have sections that sort of make it clear that if you can fill this out, fill this out. If you can't or don't feel comfortable, then don't, do you know what I mean? Like,
No.
I think it would be wrong to have a completely separate template. Um, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I was saying, like, what if we had a default contributor or something, or like it's a different kind of default. I'm brain.
So,
It's
so
I don't.
first of all, I guess like we can't do that anything clever though, right? To default to a different template depending on whether you're a team member or not.
Right, we can't do that, but we can like kind of link to it from.
Yeah,
That's I almost kind of want to like this is the landing template for everybody creating an issue,
yep,
all 60,000 of them.
yep,
For our immediate team that's hopefully, dealing with these issues every day, and we're creating a follow-up from an MR, something like that. Like, um, ideally, we would be able to. We could fill out a little bit more information. But I get what you're saying. You're saying
Yeah.
we should just include this on every.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I hate to name drop, but I'm sure you've come across like Marco and Nicholas and the likes. If they were creating an issue, they'd probably fill out more details than if I was creating an issue.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we've definitely got plenty of community members, and we're trying to build that up as well. So I think if it's clear that do what you can, everything's optional and it's just hints, then I think we're probably better off with one template that rules them all.
Yeah. I mean, I find myself, I, I honestly, I never use the template. I don't know why. I never find myself using a template, and I always select everything and I type description, and I
What
won't type
what
like,
happens if you do a follow up on a merge request? Does it default to the default, or does it default to a blank for some reason? I think it should default to the default, right?
well, you know what? It actually includes, I don't entirely know because it includes
No, that's yeah. The comment that you do a follow up on is basically what, yeah. So you don't get that. I think
I,
that's why I
I
don't
think that
see
is
this.
I think that template does come from somewhere though, because I've noticed it change and I've noticed it include different. I feel like I've noticed it
Which one are
include.
you talking about? The merge request?
Yeah, if you create an issue from a merge request,
Like it still has a drop down in it and it uses the default template.
I
Like
don't
the
know. I don't think it does, because if you think about it, think about the content when you do. I mean, Paul can demonstrate for us now. Pull up a recent MR.
or maybe
It
it uses the one that's in the field in the settings because there's one of those too.
because it says things like Dave started a thread on or something, opened an issue to
Oh,
resolve this
that one.
discussion. Yeah.
see if it's in the docs.
Hmm.
Uh, Merge requests, follow up, issue, MR. This doesn't seem like quite right. Is there issues? I'll resolve a thread
Oh yeah. Here we,
to an issue.
here we
Created.
go. Doesn't say anything about the template there, does it?
It doesn't.
Looks like you got yourself an MR to improve the docs there, Paul.
No, I don't want docs at Mars. I don't want to do docs. All right. We'll test it out. We'll see what it does.
Oh, you can do it on production. We're not going to press the.
Okay. I just don't want to. I don't want to add noise to an MR. That's
As long as you don't actually create the issue, it's all good.
well. All right. I'm gonna do one with this one. This is fine. Shakar could. Uh, um.
No, you
I'll
you won't.
some noise. Okay.
No,
Shakar,
you won't create any noise. You won't create any noise. Hit cancel. Hit cancel.
they'll do it. All right.
That's
I
it.
think I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Thank you. Yes. Yes. I see what you're
No, no, no. Sorry, I'm being quite rude and abrupt. But
So yes, it says following discussion, and that's all that's there.
yeah,
But I see. I feel like I feel like it was different in the GitLab project, but maybe it's not. Let me go to one of my reviews on the main GitLab project. Let me scroll down to one of the discussions. Bada, 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 bada. I won't pick on Nicholas's one in case I mess something up. Pick on this thread. Boom. Yeah,
it's the same, right?
yeah.
But realistically, I feel like it should still pull the default template in, but just kind of stick this bit of text above it almost.
Yeah, I do think so too. Yeah, let's look at this in the code base and see if we see anything that's like, oh, the following. It's not even.
That's weird. It's in the specs, but not in the code base.
Yeah, it is weird. I wonder if it is a setting.
How can we can't? Oh no, I'm mind's boggled. How can we have a test for it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see, should be addressed. I'm gonna look for that thing.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go. The following discussion pluralized. That's why.
Nice, nice.
Discussions, there are no review the conversation description or issue params. Oh, does this show up in the issue param? This doesn't show up like that. Okay, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope it's not. Yeah, so it looks like we just hard code it. It's interesting.
Do you think? I know we quite like a bias for action and start with a merge request, but in this instance, do you think I should start an issue to discuss and see if people think like adding the default template would be beneficial? Or
I feel like so here's the use case I run into a lot is I'm doing something. And while I'm doing something, I run into an actual GitLab.com bug. I don't have time to fix the bug, but let me create an issue, ping in the is this known, all that stuff. So I go to create a new issue. And then I will select everything and say, notice on GitLab.com, and then here's a
so I
screenshot.
think I'm quite good. I think if it's a bug, like I would use the bug template, and if I've got a feature request, I think I do use the feature request template. I think.
I mean, probably.
I think we can improve it. Don't get me wrong, but
I mean, so it's like this is. I mean, I guess I could fill it out. I'm so lazy.
it's a bit scary. Is that what you kind of?
Yeah, it's very for me. It's like I I'm not reading all this. I'm not gonna say beat. I will if I will read it, but it's just so much easier for me to like. I can put in all the context and the screenshot, and there we go. And but what I will say is like I normally then do, you know, I'll add,
Possible,
application
yeah.
details or investigation. And it's like, I think is this line of code, here's another pattern, whatever, and I'll drop that there. And this is the part that's like, it'd be really great if we could prompt more issue authors to doing this. And then even instructions for like, hey, if you don't have this, here's, see if you can reach out to the team that can fill this out so that we can have, a more healthy issue backlog for and consider adding these labels, this actual labels, not accepting merge requests that you're supposed to add. Like if all of that instruction was here in the issue description, that would be really cool. But I'm already noticing myself. I think these for me like get so wordy and irrelevant to what I'm trying to do that I just very quickly scratch all of it, try to move on. So it's like it'd be really great if there was an issue template that was as small as this one,
I think It's challenging though, because there are optional bits. So if we went through that bug template, if you're self-managed, self-hosted, there's a bunch of like, can you run this command and dump the logs here? Can you do this and dump the, so unless we want to sort of split that out into more separate templates,
Yeah.
it's quite hard to avoid if you know, like,
I mean, this is, yeah, I mean, this is pretty good. Like, I should just be doing this.
I think I know, like, I'm exactly in the same boat. I understand, like, it gets to a point where we kind of tip over the edge and say, well, actually, instead of making it easier by prompting for all these things, we've asked too much, and people are just going to skip over it. But
yeah, I probably should just do this, because I think this is effectively what I end up writing out.
yeah. And is there somewhere like what you've tried? I reckon there is.
There's
Maybe not.
results. I mean, this is
It's
can be,
definitely like recreation steps. I thought
yeah.
there were.
If you're reporting a bug on GitLab.com, so it includes like the labels and stuff. That's, I think, is really helpful. If these like issue templates are the single source of truth for the labels, is a big
So
deal.
saying that a community member can't label their own issues, I don't think so. Well, they can with the bot. So
Yeah. I mean,
but
yeah,
this template wouldn't work, is what I guess I'm saying.
that's true. So that, all right though. Okay. Yeah, so then I guess the next idea is like we should maybe do like just a little maybe adding a single line comment to a number of these templates that are regularly used for what is the label you should add if you want it to be picked up by the community. Like if we have just 2 lines.
Well, no, that's the point. So we're saying that you don't need to add a label. Is the kind of
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
what
But
am I
what if
going to
it's
call
like,
it?
okay, but quick win, is that one of the labels though?
So definitely quick win will remain. Yeah, I think it will, because definitely the newer contributors want something that's a quick win and ideally has. So what we're hoping, I don't know if I personally don't use them, but I'm just about allowed to excuse myself because I'm not technically an engineer anymore. The workflow labels, I think, differentiate between something that I think there's like a planning breakdown, like ready for designs and then like ready for development or something like that. So they should allow you to sort of say, okay, I'm a community contributor and I don't know how to code Ruby and JavaScript, but I can design and I can discuss and I can pull in the PMs and I can help to flesh this out. So
Yeah.
I'm going to look for stuff that's planning breakdown. Oh, I'm a UX, UI, whatever designer, so I can help with ready for design. Oh, I'm a Vue developer, so I can help with ready for development. Yeah.
Those labels are not used consistently by all groups, though.
Yeah.
But that's a bad thing, right? And we should try and fix that.
No, not necessarily. We're intentionally not using them on the remote development group, for example, because we intentionally want a simpler process.
Would you like to share your simpler process? Because again, always interested.
It's on our handbook page.
Awesome.
The justifications for why we're doing it. Like it's basically just replacing part of the build process of the main GitLab flow. So there may still be, design breakdown and stuff like that. But like in practice, that often doesn't happen because the designers, they do their designs and then, that's perhaps part of an epic or maybe an issue. And that phase, that workflow label doesn't necessarily get applied, or at least
So you just mean you kind of skip steps and like it's a bit, sometimes you don't have this, you do have that, and
right. Or it's like in our particular case, perhaps because it's much more of a sort of a back end and less design focused feature, there's not a lot of need for those other stages. It kind of goes from, you know, the PM's mind to, you know, planning breakdown to implementation. There's and if there is a design phase, that's like in the separate issue that then gets, you know, pulled in to other issues that don't necessarily sit there. I don't know how relevant that is, but the point is you can't always rely on those workflow labels being used consistently or the same by all groups. Because every group's different, every feature is different.
So yeah, I mean, I'd like to try and get. Have you got a link? Because I searched.
Do because those get automated based on like the state of things, but the earlier ones maybe not necessarily. Like they may just hang out in planning breakdown.
So I kind of think that's all right to some extent. I think the kind of ready for development is going to be the should I say the most popular one, the most important one. And what we were going to try and suggest is that we aim to have some suggestion of an implementation plan when something's ready for development.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of automation, saying that if you've got an issue that is open and like we already force people to put some workflow label on it, right? You have to use them and it has to be something it's just whether it's the appropriate one. So any option you can put around making sure things end up and ready for development if they're just newly created and sitting there is good.
Awesome, cool. Okay, so you may use them subtly differently, but
that's
you're
again
still happy to use them.
But that's still up again up to the PM having had eyes on that issue and moving it from like planning breakdown or whatever it initially started in to ready for development.
Awesome.
But poking people to do the right thing for those is via automation, I think is good. And we do that in many cases, but we can add more.
Awesome. And do you think it's going to be problematic? Yeah, trying to get implementation plans on issues that are ready for development.
You want the honest answer?
Okay.
Yes, because it's a pain to write.
I guess so we did
like Paul of writing them.
Let me just see if I can.
The non-snarky answer is like often those only come like when the issue is, you know, actually prioritized. So it's sort of a just-in-time process. And
yeah, I think
you're expecting people to take their time to do this, but it's like, well, I've got other priorities. Why does this priority matter more than my other priorities to write this plan for something that may not get done for months or ever?
I think what you're saying again came up earlier in the week that essentially the implementation plan can take longer than the implementation itself. Is that fair to say?
Exactly. And like I tried to input like literally I myself made a template for our group that had all of these nice things in it. And you know, we're trying to force ourselves to refine it. But even I'm reluctant to do that because it takes a lot of work. Like I'll do it on the ones that really matter, but like the small refactorings, I'm sort of cheating on them and stuff like that. It's
yeah, I would say that there's some where the implementation plan is so trivial, it puts extra work to put it into words because it's just so clear what needs to happen. While I'm pointing to the code, I might as well just do it. And maybe that's fine to just say then in the implementation plan, like
see above.
This is very trivial, just see above. Like I think that's totally doable. There's other times where it's like you shouldn't be spending more than 5 minutes on the implementation plan. Otherwise, we need to actually make it really clear in the implementation plan. We have to do investigation. We're not even sure how we need to solve this. Or we don't even have a good direction forward. And that's very clear for future readers of like, oh, what is the state of this issue? Is it clear what we need to do, or we need this thing requires investigation. So it's like and then often if I know like, okay, it's gonna take me like an hour to figure out how to do this, but I know if I ping someone that's an ex, and I'm talking about creating a random bug for a random page that I have no context on. I'll rather than saying, "Hey team, can you just fix this?" It goes a really long way of being like, "Hey, rather than you stopping everything you're doing and picking up on a bug to fix it, whatever, like, can you spare 5 minutes of your time to just drop lines of code for future readers, just making it anything we could do to make issues more attractive to community contributors goes a super long way. But yeah, even if the implementation plan is just NA, I think that's better than even not saying anything like we hadn't even, you know what I'm saying?
One of the things I
Yeah.
did when I wrote a custom template for our remote development team, sort of inspired by the others, where you have to put in implementation plan and a use case. But instead of having like that, the instructions within comments, so if they don't do anything, that section is just blank. I made them actually like a to do, out of comments. So to do colon, fill out the implementation plan. It should look like this. So then it's explicit that somebody did it. And as part of that to do instructions, it could say, delete this or replace it with not necessary because this is too trivial. Like, and then when anybody looks at that takes zero work on their part. They don't even have to care about it. But when somebody comes and looks at that in the future, it's clear whether, okay, this was just ignored or this was intentionally left out because they had to at least type that, but that wasn't a whole plan. It was like 2 words, not needed. So that would be reducing, the toil and, dauntingness of trying to fill these out. Like, just by definition, if it's still left as a to-do, then nobody looked at it and maybe it needs to get looked at, whether it has to be written or not.
So do you think though that accurately would be reflected by a workflow label? So, if something has an implementation plan, and we can include the implementation plan is so basic that it doesn't warrant writing in that. But if we know it's going to take time, hour to dig in and figure out what and where, etc., then it's not ready for development. Then it's kind of
Again, that implies somebody correctly setting the workflow label. And especially if that's an external contributor, I would not place any bets on that being done.
Okay, so let's rewind and say that should every issue go on and default to something like planning breakdown or whatever the earliest sort of triage status is, and it then requires somebody to either override that or nudge it along as it moves through the workflow steps?
That would make sense to me. It's like, but I'm not a PM. That makes more work on the PM side because then they have to move all of those things along or deal with them. But honestly, that's, just like it's part of the engineer's job to write a good MR description and describe everything. It's part of the PM's job to triage every issue that comes through and make sure it's in the right workflow.
Yeah, especially if they want that team or the community to pick them up.
Exactly. But I think that's sort of it's orthogonal to me preferring to leave, instead of the instructions and comments, like even in addition to the comments, like an actual to do. Like, you must delete this to do and put something in here. Otherwise, by definition, it's going to tell people this was not filled out.
Yeah.
Or not even looked at, right?
So I'm just taking notes of what I think would be helpful instructions to making issues attractive for contributors. So this is at the top of it of, do we have an investigation, implementation plan, or possible fixes section? And then I think somehow finding a nice way to leave these like canned responses of like, not applicable, this is super trivial. Or to do, we're going to ping someone. or a to-do of like, hey, we gotta figure out how to investigate this. I think that's be super helpful. Figuring out a nice way to so that an issue author can just plug and play those canned responses. Um, Adding a weight, I know that issue contributors look for weights, and so you got
I've been told again that this is something frustratingly that different teams use
yep, yeah,
differently.
yep.
Because I was arguing the case to maybe get rid of quick win and say, well, actually, quick win is weight equals 1.
That makes a lot of sense.
But I don't know who and how you can use weight differently to. I don't know what else you can use it for or how else you can use it. I
Yeah,
mean, I
that's a-
understand that a 10 for one team might not be the same as a 10 for another, but I would have thought that a 1 for every team would be, the simplest, the smallest, the easiest.
um, not even that. There's group that will use the same issue for back end and front end, and they'll have a different label for like
Ah, that's right. That's right.
end weight. Um, I know that we don't use weights consistently. So it's like for me, if you've I almost treat it as like if you've added a weight, you clearly are looking. And anytime I have added a weight, um,
You must have investigated and know what you think is
yep,
required to.
yeah. And I don't know, like I don't even know, do we have a weight unknown? Like, do we have that kind of label? Maybe. That would be really helpful, I think.
I think it has to be an integer, like you wouldn't want it to be a string. And yeah, that's completely right. You shouldn't assign a weight until that's been done explicitly, because that, implies that it's been looked at and deemed to be of a low weight.
Yeah.
And
But it's interesting because, as I say, if you look at the quick win labels, and I'm sure I'm guilty of this as well, that things on the surface can often seem like a quick win. And then when it comes to it, we did have a good example earlier in the week. You can pass a negative time estimate for an issuable, and just adding some logic in to prevent a negative time estimate seems like a quick win, right? But then it's like, well, there's the REST API, the GraphQL API, quick actions. So immediately there's 3 different sort of mechanisms. And it was until, we started trying to flesh out that implementation plan and realizing that all those different things existed.
so that's why, as part of our remote development process, what we do, which is this is closely aligned to extreme programming and Scrum to some point, but more XP. We have an iteration planning meeting, and you can still make an issue and start it and weight it yourself if you want. But the standard way is that the team collectively discusses every prioritized issue and does Rochambeau, rock, paper, scissors, to throw a Fibonacci weight. And that is the opportunity for at least everybody on the team to contribute, to say, no, this is actually a 5, or this is actually a 3, or this actually has to be broken down. It's too big to even, iterate on. It should be broken down into smaller issues.
mm.
Which then leads me to the whole thing of like, why do we have issues in MRs as separate entities? That's 2 sources of truth for the implementation, but we don't even want to go.
I love that discussion. I want to go there.
Time that could take us till Monday.
So what do you think of the one is I'm sure that there's a better way to present this than a blob of text that no one's gonna read. I say this as someone that tends to not read blobs of text. I guess what my eyes do is I'm like a model that just looks for doesn't actually read the text, but just tries to gain the sentiment of it. I'm like the model that's like, oh yeah, this is a positive thing, or this is a negative thing, and then I'll just reply to it based on what I gathered was the sentiment of the paragraph above. I'm joking, but not really. Um, do we think that there's something?
Summarize that blob of text, Paul.
What'd you say?
You need some AI to summarize that blob of text
I
for you.
guess so. I guess so. But like even then, that sometimes the AI responds with another blob of text. I really just need the AI to like give me an emoji of like, were they happy? Were they sad? Like,
So I don't know whether this will work, but definitely my sort of what I'd like to do is look at this and see, can we automate it, i.e., you create the issue and a bot says you didn't add an investigation implementation plan or possible fixes. If you're able to, if you've done any of those, please do. Or do you know what? I
yeah,
guess that doesn't stop us having them on here, maybe, but like you've already said that these templates are quite big and you don't read them. Maybe after this conversation, you might sort of be more inclined to. I don't know. Like, I fully understand. Like,
yeah,
you could even argue because these then link to the handbook as well. But we're not going to go to the handbook every time and read the entire documentation on like the issue workflow and how to create a good issue. It's like we've got to be somewhat realistic.
yeah,
But again, some people hate the bots, so it's really hard to come up with this
yeah.
middle ground.
I think, um, I think if I am inclined to now use the templates more. I think we gotta use them, and then if they're not fulfilling our purpose, we gotta update the templates. I'm inclined to do that. The bots, I know I won't be able to respond to as well because like I've already moved on. And when a bot tells me to do something, that's just going to be another to do on my large to do list that I may not be able to get to and I may forget about. And those are all real possibilities. The so ideally we won't need a bot. Ideally, we could make it so obvious and easy that authors can just go through the description. And I think it would be cool if like we had, I see that this is bug, but it's like I could see us having a refactor issue type would be really cool. Or maybe like a
Maintenance sort of thing, or
maintenance or even like a
I mean, maybe it should match our types, bug, feature,
exactly, yeah,
maintenance.
exactly. Like look, we don't even have feature, we just have feature proposal, but we don't even have like an implementation issue or something. Like we're just doing a here's the next step of the thing that I need to do. And if we have issues for those types that we're using all the time, oh yeah, they even yes, that'd be so great. And they even said
Could
that would
we, Paul, could we use the web IDE for this box?
you know what?
And then we'd have
I think
AI
we
in it,
would.
right? We'd have code
Oh, we
suggestions.
would. Yeah, yeah. But then I'm almost thinking like, okay, then let's figure out we don't need this huge blob of text, but like for possible fixes, we can include like the possible canned responses that you could just plug and play here based on your situation, whatever.
Well, like almost like the tick boxes to say I've tried or I haven't tried, or that sort of, and then you can fill out some more detail there.
Yeah, or I don't know, even if it was something like, um, I don't know, we can even just say canned responses. Uh, uh, we can just drop it. We don't even need to explain them. We can just drop in these canned responses here, like, I don't know. Uh,
I mean, I like to think that, and I think that's what I've maybe been suggested. See you later, Yannick.
I mean,
um,
see, on
what been suggested to me is that maybe I kind of try and touch base with like like head of engineering or something to try and, because there clearly is this kind of disconnect right already as the use of the workflows. And if we can start by trying to align that a bit, and we can have 2 or 3 different ways of aligning that. One is obviously to communicate and to educate. One is to improve the templates. Another is to potentially use some automation as well. That is, starting at a certain workflow and reminding people if they set to some other workflow, but it's missing something that would normally be associated with that. Oh, you've set it to ready for development, but it hasn't got a wait, or ready to development, but it hasn't got an implementation plan. Those kind of things could all maybe work together.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely working all together is the ideal. Like, there's no reason we can't do both. Yeah. Oh, what do you think of what's a good way to format this kind of thing? Do you think like one comment that has all of these, or like response if trivial? I don't know.
Good question. Good question.
I like Chad's idea of like, rather than having these comment things, we should just say it should just be to do investigation needed.
Gotcha. And you remove the ones that aren't applicable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we could, and then
yeah, you could just put the comment above, remove the ones that aren't applicable, or
yeah. So it's like, this is the default one, is we got to investigate this thing, you know? I don't know. I don't know what to call these things.
options. I like options.
Option. Yeah. Is that obvious, or is it not obvious?
I quite like it. I quite like it.
Patient label. Or yeah, we can do something like,
yeah, I'd probably, yeah, exactly. I'd move that comment above and almost say this is the default, or untriaged, or whatever we're going to call it.
remove if,
Not applicable is good
yeah,
enough, I think.
if NA for investigation is, yeah, something like that. I mean, what do you think of that?
So we've got possible fixes. Do we need to change is possible? So this is just for bugs. So possible
Right.
fixes is essentially an implementation plan, right?
Exactly. And I think if we did
Or is it? You could say, well, possible fix is to update the. I'm trying to understand if there's a level, like, a possible fix is to update the code to handle X scenario, whereas an implementation plan is like in the base merge request service, on line 8.7 in this method, you just need to add a condition. I don't know if
yeah,
it's open to interpretation, right? I don't think.
I agree. I would almost rather always call this implementation, but this is implementation investigation sounds like some bit in a musical. We're going on an implementation investigation, kids. Yeah. But I almost want to always call it like, yeah, I guess we can call it implementation plan. I think across all of the issues, I want to call this investigation / implementation plan. Let's just call it one section for that bit. And I agree, possible fix isn't really great because the possible fix could be applied to like just fix it, not details that we haven't actually done investigation. So I like the idea of always calling it investigation / implementation plan. You can be consistent with that.
Yeah, because you investigate it in order to come up with the implementation plan. So you might have investigated it and said, look, I've found that this method's being called, but more than that, I don't know. Or you might be able to have gone deeper and said, yeah, this is being called, but this isn't, and it's because of this. Or
The investigation with actually the investigation. Yeah, I think that we could add this. I think we can add this to all of those different types of issues. So if it's a bug, a maintenance, or a feature. Like, and I don't even think we have that. We don't have a maintenance one, do we? No, we gotta add this. Yeah, that's be great. I think we can add the same thing. And then we can include I think we can just include this small bit at the bottom. Um uh and then almost, yeah, I think we just include this small bit of like uncomment if this is a quick win, please consider adding a wait or something.
And
Yeah.
I think that can, I suppose this big comment is in the implementation plan section, right? Because we're sort of saying that this is, I've done my investigation and I know it's a quick win. So it does live in this section at the bottom.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we can, yeah, you're right. I think we can include yeah. Did you add a relevant weight? Yeah, something like, is this a quick win? I don't know, something like that. I don't know what to call these. Something like this. I don't know. Well, I've got another meeting. I'm gonna
Maybe you just copy and paste this into
copy and
the
paste it into the
parent channel
parent
or
channel.
something.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
only messed with this bottom part.
cool.
Yeah, we could totally use the web ID to update these templates and add new templates. It'd be really cool.
No, what I was suggesting is that we replace the description WYSIWYG content editor with a web IDE so that we get AI when we're creating an issue.
Ah, that's fancy. Yeah, that's
That
fancy.
would be super, you know. I've already said that we could do with better deduping because we've got some really basic at the moment. When you create an issue, it sort of says,
Ah,
hey, is this, but searching through 60,000 issues is hard, right? So
yeah. All right, I've got to hop off. I'll see you.
have a good one.